Hey everyone. So we're going to do the book of Numbers today. There's a lot that we're going to skip over because a lot of it is very repetitive. I'm only going to try and show you unique patterns because there are very repetitive patterns. And if I showed you, as you'll see coming up, a bunch of the same stuff, it gets boring. You know, it's interesting, but it gets boring, seeing the same stuff. So I'm only trying to show you new stuff. Also, with all my videos, I want you to know that when they randomly just use the word bull or ram or lamb, and there's not like multiple other examples of astrotheology next to it, I don't even include it, okay? So there's plenty of times when they just use one example and I don't write a slide that says the bull is Taurus. You know, they would have to have the bull and then the ram and then the goat and then the this and then the virgin. And then I only use multiple examples. So let's do the 12 signs. The first sign is Aquarius, which I talk about, which is represented by the man. Now, technically Aries is the beginning of the year, but I start with Aquarius because that's kind of the beginning of our year. So it's the story of Zeus and the young boy, which I've gone into in the past. So whenever you hear son of man, man, baptism, because this is how you baptize someone, water pitcher, fountain, stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, sea, that's Aquarius, okay? Aquarius is an air sign, not a water sign in astrology. However, because there's water in the sign, literally in the sign, in this picture that you can see, there's water in it, it can be used to explain water. And water is actually in the mutable Pisces, the fish sign, the two fish. So stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, sea, current, that would be Pisces. Aries is the ram, and in Aries you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. It's also the Passover, or the passing over of the sun over the equator and back on its way to its height in the summer solstice. In Christianity, the passing over is changed and it's called the resurrection of God's son. In Judaism, the Passover is when the angel of death passes over all the Egyptian houses, and anyone that doesn't have the ram's blood or the lamb's blood, Aries, the ram, the Jews are the people of Aries, they don't have the lamb's blood on their doorposts to identify that they're Jews. The firstborn sons get killed. So whenever you hear ram, lamb, shepherd, or ram's horn, you're talking about Aries. Taurus is the bull. When you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know you need to put the plow on the bull so that you can plant the seeds so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, or cow being the female bull, they're talking about Taurus. Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. It's the story of Achilles. It's another Greek story. So whenever you hear twins, brothers, or sometimes they mention like the two servants, whenever it's two and they're male, that's Gemini. So whether it's twins or brothers or the two servants, for example, that would be Gemini. Cancer is the crab, and it's a sideways moving creature. So just as the sun rises a degree on its axis starting on December 25th, it stops on June 21st, and for 3 days it rises to the same degree, moving sideways. And then on June 25th, it lowers a degree. The crab in the ancient Egyptian time was known as the scarab. So whenever you hear crab or beetle, you're talking about Cancer. Then Leo is the king. He's the lion. He's the king of the jungle. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So whenever you hear lion, lioness, or cub, you're talking about Leo. Virgo is the woman or the virgin holding the wheat stalk. So remember before when we said that you plant in Taurus, well, the virgins would cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, grainy things that you harvest, it's all done in Virgo. Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's sun as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. The Jews always celebrate their new year around the fall equinox. Libra is also wine season, which when you plant for the grapes here in Taurus, you could press the wine here. So whenever you hear law, judge, justice, the just one, divorce, marriage, court, lawyer, lawly things, that's all Libra. Libra is also wine season. So wine, vineyard, wine press, grapes, juice, that's Libra. Libra is also olive oil season. That's when you crush the olives. Okay, so there's a lot going on in Libra. Incidentally, frankincense and myrrh are both olive plants as well, too. So we'll get to that when we get to the New Testament. Scorpio is the scorpion. He's the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death, and it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. So the sun is judged in Libra, and it's betrayed in Scorpio. Finally, in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun, inflict further punishment on the sun, effectively killing it. This is where the sun dies. Why? Because on December 21st, the sun is at its lowest point. It cannot rise any lower. It's dead. It's the dead of winter. It remains at that lowest level for 3 days, just like it walks sideways in June in Cancer for the summer solstice. Doesn't rise at a higher degree, doesn't rise lower degree. It just stays at that height for 3 days. It stays at this height for 3 days too. So suddenly God's sun was dead for 3 days, where it rises another degree and starts to make its way back up top. So whenever you hear horse, bow and arrow, spear, or horseman, you're talking about Sagittarius. Finally, you have Capricorn the goat, because he likes to climb the mountain. So if you look at the zodiac on the right, you'll see Capricorn at the bottom. You put a little dot representing the sun and start climbing a degree a day, going to the left on its way to its height in Cancer. It starts to climb up the mountain in Capricorn, just like the mountain goats climb. Okay, so now let's just jump right into numbers. And there's a lot of numbers that I didn't give examples for, like they did a census in numbers, the first census they did, and they listed the total amount of people. Now I'm writing a chapter about that in my book. There's a hidden code in there that I'm going to write in my 9th book. My 7th actually just came out, but I'm going to write it in my 9th book. But for the time being, just know that I left the census part out because there's nothing really in there except numbers. Literally, this is why this book is called Numbers, because everything is numbered. So the Kohathites, then they are to cover the curtain with a durable leather. Over the table of the presence, they are to spread a blue cloth and put on it plates, dishes, and bowls, and the jars for drink offerings. The bread that is continuously there to remain on it. And all the jars for the olive oil are used to supply it. The leather comes from a cow, which is the female bull, so that's Taurus. The bread is Virgo, and the olive oil is Libra. The drink offerings, I've been toying with this idea that the drink offerings, usually when they're talking about drink offerings, they're talking about things like beer and wine, okay? Especially in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, they mention beer. Well, beer comes from barley, and that's harvested in Virgo. And the wine is Libra, okay? So when they say drink offerings, it could be either or. So unless there's specifically a clue as to which one it is, I leave the drink offerings out of the decodings because it's just too interpretive. Whereas there's 2 water signs that I talk about, Aquarius and Pisces. It's much easier to figure out which water example they can by following the cross signs or the neighboring signs or the cross signs at the firmaments. There's ways to bend the zodiac to figure that out. Okay, so Virgo and Libra are connecting signs, by the way. The test for an unfaithful wife. He must also take an offering of 1/10 of an ephah of barley flour on her behalf. He must not pour olive oil on it or put incense in it. So an ephah is about 35 pounds. So the barley flour is Virgo, right? And the olive oil is Libra. Again, those are connecting signs. The Nazirite. There they are to present their offerings to the Lord, a year-old male lamb without defect for a burnt offering, a year-old ewe lamb without defect for a sin offering, a ram without defect for a fellowship offering, together with their grain offerings and drink offerings, and a basket of bread made with the finest flour and without yeast. Thick loaves with olive oil mixed in, and thin loaves brushed with olive oil. So the lamb and the ram are Aries. The grain is Virgo. The bread is Virgo. The olive oil is Libra. Libra and Virgo are connecting signs. Aries and Libra are opposing signs. Okay? And notice how I mentioned that I don't talk about the drink offerings, because it could either be beer, or it could be, which is barley, which is Virgo, or it could be wine, which is Libra. And unless you're sure which one it is, I'm not going to make any guesses. Offerings at the dedication of the tabernacle. His offering was 1 silver plate weighing 130 shekels, and 1 silver sprinkling bowl weighing 70 shekels, both according to the sanctuary shekel, each filled with the finest flour mixed with olive oil as a grain offering. 1 gold dish weighing 10 shekels is filled with incense. 1 young bull, 1 ram, 1 male lamb, a year old for a burnt offering, 1 male goat for a sin offering, and 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 male goats, and 5 male lambs, a year old, to be sacrificed at the fellowship offering. It's interesting. It's always the same animals, isn't it, guys? The flour is Virgo. The olive oil is Libra. They're connecting signs. The bull is Taurus. The ram and lamb are Aries, connecting signs. The goat is Capricorn. The oxen are Taurus. The ram is Aries, the goat is Capricorn. So I'm only giving this one example because there are 12 offerings in total that look very similar to this, or there's 11 more. It's called numbers for a reason. I didn't want to make the same redundant points. Like I try and keep these decodings fresh and an interesting combination of them. So I don't mention singular animals that are mentioned, or if the word just says virgin or man. I don't mention that unless there's a bunch of them coordinated together. The same here. The total number of animals for the burnt offering came to 12 young bulls, 12 rams, 12 male lambs a year old together with their grain offering. 12 male goats were used for the sin offering. The total number of animals for the sacrifice of the fellowship offering came to 24 oxen, 60 rams, 60 male goats, and 60 male lambs a year old. The bulls are Taurus, the rams and lambs are Aries, connecting signs. The grain is Virgo, which at its firmament opposes Aries as a connecting sign. The goats are Capricorn. It's all the same animals. Notice how the only animals that are told to sacrifice happen to be the ones that are in the zodiac: the bull, the ram, the goat. How about the lamb, the oxen? It's all the same stuff, guys. The setting apart of the Levites. Have them take a young bull with its grain offering of the finest flour mixed with olive oil. Then you are to take a second young bull for a sin offering. The bull is Taurus and the grain is Virgo. The olive oil is Libra. Virgo and Libra are connecting signs. The Israelites leave Sinai. It's important to mention that Sinai is a combination of two words from Samaria. Okay, it's not actually Hebrew, it's Sumerian. Sin, which is moon god, and Ai means mountain. So it's Sinai, however you want to call it. It's the mountain of the moon god. Why? Because in Exodus, when the Jews were at the mountain where Moses goes up, they saw the moon come out from behind it, and they thought that's where the moon came from. Okay? Incidentally, they also heard God talking when he was up there. They heard the thunder. Okay? In Hebrew, the word thunder translates to voices. Okay, so they heard thunder and they thought God was talking. And then they saw the moon god come up behind him. So that's what they thought it was. So they set out from the mountain of the Lord and traveled for 3 days. There's a constant mention of 3 days in the Bible. I've mentioned this before in other episodes. Jesus was dead for 3 days, Jonah in the whale for 3 days, traveling for 3 days. It goes back to the 3-day pause of the sun at the solstices. The manna was like coriander seed and looked like resin, and it tasted like something made with olive oil. So olive oil is Libra. However, this is what a coriander seed looks like, by the way, this pile. Notice how it looks like the head of a mushroom. The word manna in Hebrew means, what's this? They would go around to one another, point on the ground, a small round white thing, and say manna to each other. What's this? Then they eat it and talk to God. Okay, there's a book called The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross, which talks about how psychedelics are rampant through the Bible. Ezekiel's wheel, the vision from the Lord. Moses in the burning bush. The manna when they get to see God. The book of Revelation. Psychedelics. Okay? Report on the exploration. The land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. So here's the first. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we look the same to them. So this is the first mention of the Nephilim in the Bible. There's an entire topic for another day, but when they say that they seemed like grasshoppers, remember Leviticus 11, where God commands that they are allowed to eat grasshoppers, and how the elites are trying to get you to do it now. The people rebel. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us. So there's a constellation in Cancer called the Beehive Cluster. That's where the honey comes from. Now the milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy, which I've mentioned before time and time again. It's been called the Milky Way galaxy as far back as the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and probably even further back. I haven't gone back further than that. I've read the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It is definitely called the Milky Way galaxy there. Now that center is in Sagittarius. Most of the Milky Way galaxy is in Sagittarius. So from Cancer to Sagittarius is the land of milk and honey. Now, interestingly enough, Cancer is where the summer solstice is, and Sagittarius is where the winter solstice is. Okay, so it's birth and not birth and death. It's life and death. Okay. Supplementary offerings. Then the person who brings an offering shall present to the Lord a grain of offering of a tenth of an ephah. It's about 3.5 pounds, if an ephah is 35 pounds, of the finest flour, mixed with a quarter of hin, which is about a liter, of olive oil. With each lamb for the burnt offering or the sacrifice, prepare a quarter of hin of wine as a drink offering. See, here they say that the wine is the drink offering. Whereas if they just say drink offering, I don't touch it. So the grain is Virgo, the olive oil is Libra, those are connecting signs. The lamb is Aries, and Aries and Libra are connecting signs. I'm sorry, Aries and Libra are opposing signs, my apologies. Offerings for unintentional sins. And if this is done unintentionally without the community being aware of it, then the whole community is to offer a young bull for a burnt offering as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, along with its prescribed grain offering and drink offering, and a male goat for sin offering. The bull is Taurus, the grain is Virgo, the drink is Libra. Virgo and Libra are connecting signs, and the goat is Capricorn. Okay? Now, you guys are probably asking yourself, why did they used to sacrifice animals? Why did they sacrifice animals? Well, they explain it in the Old Testament. Here's how it basically works. In the Old Testament, you used to sacrifice animals. Now, granted, they were always the signs of the zodiac, which is twofold. Number one, they, as above, so below. They literally did it on earth, but they were metaphors for the constellations in heaven. Now, here's the thing. The animals that they sacrificed, okay, they were sacrificed to the Lord in order to make penance for something. So if you sinned or if you did this, it's basically offering a penance. You sacrifice the animal. By the time the New Testament comes around, the idea is that Jesus Christ and his death on the cross circumvents the need for animal sacrifices because he had taken the sins of the world on himself, and he dies on the cross. And then we're not going to get into the fact that he's reborn and everything, just like the ancient gods, but the idea is that the transfer of power goes from the animals at that point to Jesus, okay? Because in the New Testament, you no longer have to make sacrifices. So that's the story behind that. That's why they used to make animal sacrifices, because they had no way to atone unless they sacrificed an animal. And then Jesus comes along and takes it all on himself. And then so now people just venerate Jesus instead of sacrificing animals. So Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Moreover, you haven't brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, or given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Then Moses became very angry and said to the Lord, do not accept their offering. I have not taken so much as a donkey from them, nor have I wronged any of them. So the milk and honey is Sagittarius and Cancer, right? The summer solstice and the winter solstice. The donkey is a Salus Borealis, which is in Cancer. Okay, so you have the beehive cluster and the donkey in Cancer. So when you're in Cancer, you could talk about crabs, right? The sideways moving creature. You could talk about the scarab, the beetle. You could talk about the donkey. You could talk about the honey. You could talk about the bees. This is how this works, basically. There's keywords in each sign that represent them. Again, the summer solstice and the winter solstice. Offerings for the priests and Levites. I give you all the finest olive oil and all the finest new wine and grain that they give the Lord as first fruits of their harvest. But you must not redeem the firstborn of a cow, a sheep, or goat. They are holy. The oil is Libra. The wine is Libra. The grain is Virgo, connecting signs. The cow is female Taurus. The sheep is Aries, connecting signs. And the goat is Capricorn. The water of cleansing. Tell the Israelites to bring you a red heifer without defect or blemish, and that has never been under a yoke. This is important. Well, the red heifer is a female bull or cow, so Taurus is what they're talking about here. This is more important because this is what needs to be sacrificed right before building of the third temple in Israel. They already have a one world religion building in Jerusalem. You can literally look it up because we're in the age of Aquarius now, so there needs to be a new religion. Okay, we're in the age of Aquarius right now, and these morons are still talking about a sacrifice from 3 ages ago. We don't sacrifice bulls anymore. This isn't the age of Taurus. Okay. The bronze snake. Then the Lord sent venomous snakes among them. They bit the people, and many Israelites died. The Lord said to Moses, make a snake and put it up on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live. So he basically says, take his staff, wrap a snake around it, and anyone that looks at it will survive. Well, do you know what the snake wrapped around a post is? It's the following. It's the rod of Asclepius in Greek. It also evolves into the caduceus in medical field. But at its heart, it's the kundalini from Hindu. Yes, the Bible has been influenced by the outside. When I get to Revelations, you'll see that the 144,000 is just another word for the chakras. Okay. Balaam's donkey. Okay. This is the scene right here where everybody talks about how the donkey talks in the Bible. This is it. Balaam was riding on his donkey and his two servants were with him. See, there's the two servants, by the way. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path through the vineyards. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth and said to Balaam, "What have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times?" Aha. The donkey is a Salus Borealis in Cancer. The two servants are Gemini, the twins, the brothers, the 2 males. Cancer and Gemini are connecting signs, by the way. The vineyard is in Libra. Okay, the 3 times is another mention to the 3, the constant mention of 3 days, or the 3 times in general. Okay, Cancer has the summer solstice and Libra has the fall equinox. So there's 2 of the 4 major points there. Balak sacrificed cattle and sheep. Balaam said, "Build me 7 altars here and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me." So the cattle is Taurus, the sheep is Aries. Those are connecting signs. The bulls and the rams are exactly the same. They have the strength of a wild ox. The people rise like a lioness. They rouse themselves like a lion. Well, the ox is Taurus, the lion is Leo. Those are 2 of the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. Balaam's 3rd message: water will flow from their buckets. Their seed will have an abundant water. God brought them out of Egypt. They have the strength of a wild ox. With their arrows, they pierce them. Like a lion, they crouch and lie down. The water from the bucket is Aquarius, literally. And the ox is Taurus, 2 of the 4 fixed signs. The arrows come from Sagittarius, the man on the horse with the bow and the arrow, and the lion is Leo. Leo is the 3rd of the 4 fixed signs. The 4th fixed sign being the eagle, or as I've mentioned before, Scorpio. Okay, they're fixed in their season. Why? Well, Aquarius is right in the middle of winter. Taurus is right in the middle of spring. Leo is right in the middle of summer. And the last sign, which isn't mentioned here, is Scorpio, also known as the eagle, the ascendant, is right in the middle of the fall. On the 14th day of the 1st month, the Lord's Passover is to be held. On the 15th day of this month, there is to be a festival. For 7 days, eat bread made without yeast. Present to the Lord a food offering consisting of a burnt offering of 2 young bulls, 1 ram, 7 male lambs, all a year old without defect. With each bull, offer a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with oil. With the ram, 2/10, and with each of the 7 lambs, 1/10. Include 1 male goat as a sin offering to make atonement for you. The bread is Virgo, the bull is Taurus, the ram is Aries, the lamb is Aries. Taurus and Aries are connecting signs. The grain is Virgo, the oil is Libra. Those are connecting signs. Aries and Libra are opposing signs. They make lots of patterns here, guys. And it's important to understand too, is that I'm not just randomly spitting out like a goat or a bull or making things that don't make sense pattern-wise. These make very distinct patterns in the zodiac. Okay. And they do it constantly. With each book that goes on, you'll see how they continuously do it constantly. So the Festival of Weeks, the Festival of Trumpets, the Festival of Tabernacles, all 3 have variations of the previous slide. The number of the animals and the amount of ephahs change, but it's basically the same stuff. No need to be redundant. So I just kind of skipped over that. Okay. Dividing the spoils. The Lord says, divide the spoils equally between the soldiers who took part in the battle and the rest of the community. The plunder remaining from the spoils that the soldiers took was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 women who have never slept with a man. Women who have never slept with a man. They literally wrote that out in the Bible. So the sheep is Aries, the cattle is Taurus. Those are connecting signs. The donkey is the Salus Borealis in Cancer, and the woman who have never slept with a man is a nice way of saying Virgo or lesbian, but that's not what they meant in the Bible. They mean virgin. Okay, Aries and Virgo are opposing signs at their firmament. And my friends, thank you. That is Numbers. I'm finishing up the 5th book, Deuteronomy, which is the next which is the last book of the 5 books of the Torah. And then we will continue. We will go through all of these. We will make our way through all of these, and I'll show you how it's all the same. And then when I'm done with everything, I'm making one final PowerPoint where I'm going to take one slide from each book of the Bible and show how it's all astrotheology and show different kinds of patterns. So thank you guys for listening. Please share this stuff. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.